I think the fashion aspect of our show, the fact that people would go online and talk about what Blossom was wearing and what Six was wearing, I don't think that occurred to us at the beginning. I think that what we did was we got really randomly lucky that Sherry Thompson was hired as our designer, and she just had this fantastic, eclectic, really, really cool sense of style. And, you know, Blossom became her doll.
Blossom was my first job as a costume designer. I'm in the interview and we're talking, and Don Rio said to me, we talked a little bit about the look, and he said, oh, do whatever you want. I want people to tune in to see what Blossom and Six are wearing. And I thought, oh, great. And then as I'm leaving the interview, I turned back and go, well, are you interviewing for costume designer or costume supervisor or what? It's two different positions. And he goes, oh, costume designer. I felt like the ground lifted me up and I floated out of the room. I mean, it was magical. And then I got the job. And when he said, do whatever you want, I'll never be told that again.
Perfecto! It'll go great with this low-cut sweater.
You're holding that backwards.
She didn't have a mom, you know, setting guidelines. She kind of did her own thing. She was the only girl in a family of brothers and men, and her dad was a musician. So I imagined that the kind of friends they had were more bohemian or artistic, creative types, and she just did her own thing. I mean, someone like Blossom and someone like Mayim, they're born with their own kind of quirkiness that never goes away. And clothing is a form of self-expression, so we went with it.
Lovely. Sherry Thompson was really, I think, ahead of her time wardrobe-wise, especially in the vintage clothing department.
She had a tremendous vision. I really feel like I looked like Sherry probably would have looked when she was 14 a lot of the time.
And Maya was an incredible collaborator. She has a really unique sense of style of her very own. And our taste meshed. I was really interested in using ethnic pieces and vintage pieces, which really wasn't done much on television at the time.
Vintage shopping was not that popular when Sherry started dressing me in vintage items and then dressing like the rest of the outfit around one special piece. It just, I don't know, it's what she wanted to do.
I combed thrift stores. I have a huge collection of ethnic pieces and jewelry and some vintage things already. And so we just put interesting things together. I bought vintage things in the boys department or even new things in the boys department and took them apart and put them back together and made a different look for her. And this is actually an old vintage men's vest, probably from the 1920s. The skirt is actually made out of vintage ties. And this is the skirt that she wore also in the opening sequence, and she did a flip in it. She has a big yellow baggy sweater on with it. But I got the idea from seeing a bunch of ties in a glass case in a vintage store, and they had all these like wonderful colors, which are kind of, this yellow was kind of something I used a lot in her wardrobe. So we just sewed the ties together, so it has kind of a car wash effect. And I used it because I knew she was going to be doing a flip. I watched the choreography. She worked with a choreographer working out the dance moves she was going to do. I looked in on a rehearsal to see what she was going to do to get ideas of what kind of clothes would be appropriate.
Fire up your pad and pencil. I give you a piece of my mind.
You know, she was really just attention to detail, big on patterns, big on ethnic fabrics.
People were starting to like get their heads out of the sand and start looking around at the rest of the world and realizing that it was a varied place and that other cultures had value and were interesting and became trendy kind of. This vest is actually made out of an African kente cloth. It's hand woven in strips, and I bought the strips at an African marketplace and sewed it together and made it into a vest. The colors are non-traditional for the kente cloth in that part, but this is the traditional colors with the blue. I designed a little short top for her to wear underneath. Has a hood in the back, and the vest is kind of tweaked up. Oh, the interesting part about the vest is the inside is lined with the same fabric as the blouse, which is the kind of thing you get to do when you design things from scratch. This was a hat she wore. It has a hole. It's a Moroccan style hat and has a hole in the top where her ponytail stuck out. The pants are interesting. They're fun. We call them MC Hammer pants, and she actually did some kind of a dance like MC Hammer moves in them. And this shape of trousers is actually a very ancient men's garment shape, and we trimmed it on the bottom. She probably had some kind of little Moroccan slippers. I can't remember. So that's like the ethnic look.
So? Too cute. I was going for cute. What's wrong with cute?
We actually brought hats back, and that was, both Mayim and Jenna at the time wore hats. So we incorporated that into the show.
Sherry is entirely responsible, in my opinion, for starting the hats with the flowers on the front. And that certainly caught on, because there are more women who walk up to me now and go, you and your show are responsible for the hat collection I had as a kid.
Jenna wore the hats usually more than I did, but there was one press kit where I was wearing that hat on the cover of the press kit. It was just me with the hat with the flower, and that sort of became it.
We started putting hats on her with the flower in the front, which was kind of a different place to put decorations on a hat.
It became this flagship thing that like every girl wanted to wear that hat. And I was a very unusual looking kid, and Jenna was also. Neither of us were like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, what you see on television. So this hat became kind of our flagship thing of like, this makes me cool, this makes me wear the Blossom hat.
You know something? I've seen you around school in your goofy-looking hats. You really think you're something, don't you?
No, I just like hats. Honest, we've been wearing them since we were kids.
We repeated things just to add a little reality to it. Same bathrobe all the time, in fact. Dyed a certain shade of yellow, which sort of I thought of as a blossom yellow. I bought a lot of white things and dyed them to that yellow color. And I work hard to give every character that I work on a look. He was very enthusiastic about his clothes. He loved colors. He loved fittings. He loved fancy clothes. He didn't get to wear them a lot. As suited the actor and his character, the colors for him were really quiet. We used vintage things on him too, like 50s sweaters and polo shirts and corduroys. Now it's sort of a hipster look, so we kind of did that for him. Because he was a musician, he didn't have to have a sport coat and a tie on all the time. They didn't have a lot of money, so his clothes could have been stuff he'd had since the 70s. But he wore a lot of t-shirts and jeans. If he wore a shirt, a button front shirt with a collar, he'd usually wear it open over a t-shirt. She was very girly. Her clothes were more like right off the mannequin in the mall. So she wore whatever was trendy, like cowboy boots were a huge rage there for a while. So Six had, like 6 pairs of cowboy boots in all the different colors.
No, this isn't my color either. That's more like a spring. I'm more of an autumn person.
And we all show something about ourselves by what we choose to wear that day, or just in general, our look. So I use that when I read the scripts and help the actors. It's the most gratifying thing about the job, is to help their actors create their character. And what I always look for is the psychology of the character, the arc of the character through the particular script, particularly with guest stars. They don't really get a chance to have a chat with the executive producer or the creator of the show to find out what's been happening on the show, where their character's been, what their relationship is to the characters they're in the scene with, and that character's family. So when I'm doing the fitting, I'm explaining why they're wearing what outfit when. I'll do a breakdown of the script and decide what they should be wearing, and then I go over and tell the story to the actor during the fitting, why they're wearing such a thing, and that gives them a little bit of a heads up and something to think about in terms of their work. Then when they read the script, they've got a little more information.
What a couple of losers.
Who are you?
I'm your fairy godmother, doofus. You got 2 wishes left.
I like clothes, but I really like texture and color and art, and personally, those are my interests. So for the job, the most gratifying thing is to help the actor create the character.
She really made such an attempt to be innovative. It isn't just when you're wearing jeans and a t-shirt that you're accepted. You can go to the vintage clothing store and spend $5 on something and be more cool because you're different. And sometimes coloring outside of the lines is the coolest route to go.
We had incredible seamstresses. She had an amazing team of people working with her. She was just, an amazing kind of powerhouse of fashion.
It was a fantastic experience, a lot of fun. It was great to see the characters and the kids themselves grow up and evolve, and that's, to me, the most fun part of it, is working with the people. And the clothes is just a bonus.